Hello, welcome to Color Light Motion, curated and hosted by Victoria Vesna. I'm Bess Rocklitzer, president of the David Bermant Foundation, and today we are proud to feature Gustavo Alfonso Rincon. Dr. Rincon is an architect, artist, curator, and media arts and design engineer research scholar whose work has been exhibited nationally and internationally. Gustavo is also a passionate advocate for education and research as a human right, and we are so pleased to have him here with us today. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Color Light Motion. Our featured speaker, Gustavo Rincon, asks a profound question: how do we build new worlds? Drawing on his background in architecture and more than a decade of work with the AlloSphere Research Facility at UC Santa Barbara, Gustavo explores how immersive technologies, AI, data visualization, and spatial narratives shape the ways we imagine and experience reality. Through artists from the Bermant collection, including James Wines, Dustin Schuler, James Ossie, Earl Ryback, and Thomas Wilfred, he traces a lineage connecting architecture, ecology, science, light, and speculative futures. What emerges is a vision of art not simply as a representation, but as a tool for creating new possibilities. One especially moving moment came when Gustavo reflected on Newton Harrison, whose work inspired a project the AlloSphere team hoped to realize with him shortly before his unfortunate passing. Harrison's legacy reminds us that the goal is not merely to build increasingly sophisticated technological worlds, but to use these tools in service of living systems and ecological futures. By the end of the talk, Gustavo's question leads us to an unexpected answer. New worlds are built not only through technology, but through collaboration, shared vision, and community. How do we create educational environments that are open and free to all? How do we use technology without being destructive to the environment we so care for? It is therefore fitting that he is joined by Joanne Kuchera-Morin, Kon Hyung Kim or Kenny, and Joshua Dixon, the team with whom he has worked for many years under the visionary umbrella of the AlloSphere. Together, they embody the collaborative spirit at the heart of this talk. I think you'll find this session both inspiring and timely. Enjoy.
So today, uh, my talk starts out with the title Curating Immersive Worlds, AI Vision, Spatial Narrative, and Speculative Media Architectures. Extensive contents today, but the gist is there'll be an introduction. We're going to go through the origins of what we talked about today and kind of a precursor of where I'm at. The works that I've selected, the works that my invited colleagues and I have worked on and are participating in currently, and my wonderful responders, Dr. Joanne Kuchera-Morin, Distinguished Professor and Director of the AlloSphere, Dr. Kon Young Kim, and Professor Joshua Dickinson. I'm starting out with a diagram just to basically try to set this world picture that I have, but kind of this matrix that I'm looking at, the dimensions is space, time, and data. Research, technology, worlds, and information, and going around clockwise, media, science, art, and architecture. This quote actually pretty summarizes kind of how I'm going to focus it, and this is a David Berman quote. The art of our day that incorporates time or movement, motion, change is the most vital of all the arts being created. It is the art of our time which will endure. Um, I'm actually basing a lot of this work on almost an 18-year trajectory and the work that I did at UC Santa Barbara with my dissertation, Shaping Space as Information, which you can find online. At the core, we're looking at creating a conceptual framework, and that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years on a different trajectory. Advancing the practice as research with a lot of the curatorial practice, thoughts, and research that I've done with my colleagues throughout the years, and looking at creating a historical foundation. Um, and we're in the age of AI, and that is actually something that I would have never imagined at the beginning of this journey. We're looking at the art, architecture, science, and technology component of the sphere and going clockwise. Philosophy, computational geometry, augmented reality, and conceptual art, electronic music. I wanted to start here because James Wine's kind of focused how I wanted to talk today. There are a few books that kind of woke me up. The Deconstructivist Architecture Exhibition by Mark Wigley and Philip Johnson opened my eyes to the idea of architecture. James Wine's was basically cited in that movement for his best architecture expression. And then being digital at the time when I was an undergraduate, started this movement of computation. And a lot of the professors that I was very lucky to take courses with and share time were a part of that first wave of digital immersion and simulation. This is some of the work that I started that combines performance, media, fabrication, and conceptual architecture. And this is kind of a little bit of a an image to think through. I'm going to play a little bit of this, but this is the first expression of media, theater, and design. This was with a professor at CalArts creating media theater with an MIT professor lending to with technology. And in this iteration of the work, what you're seeing is a wall moving that any performer can use two fingers to move around and tilt in a space. And the idea of this work is to create a modular movement within the space that could be projected and changed through with light. This was inspired by a professor that created a product that would create a similar effect, but was being sold for thousands of dollars per panel. So my job was to make an installation that was affordable so that the actors and the performers and myself, while I was working at an architecture firm at the time, created this experience for everyone to behold. And that was done with Plastic Design and About Productions, which is still ongoing. This project, I worked in Los Angeles with Red Bull as a client and with Plastic Design with my PhD and architecture colleague, Professor Ben Samara, and we were both at UCLA at the time. And we took over Paramount Studios. So I'm basically what I wanted to show briefly is kind of the concepts. And we had to create a series of exhibitions that related to the theme of Red Bull. Um, in this next part, what you see is the master plan of the entire a lot. So in Paramount Studios, they have a lot where they do a lot of like filming in the streets. So we worked with Cirque du Soleil performers, computer scientists, engineers, physicists, engineers, um, people in the industry of entertainment to create this architectural media event. And that's actually the first time that I met in person who cited a new program at UCSB called Media Arts and Technology Program, and that would be Professor Marcos Novak. Right after that exhibition, my group, I was the director of the Foundation for Art Resources, and in that group, we invited a VJ, I think a VJ, a video DJ for the Japanese American Museum in downtown LA. And he actually projected his wonderful lights and his projection while everyone saw it as an opportunity for performance. This is an exhibition called the Media Cube for I would say, the Hollyhock House, Barnsdall Art Park. And I took over a quad as part of the exhibition. And a part of it was, again, linking media, arts, music. This is some of the curatorial work that I did. Inviting Mark Wigley was one of the invited guests. Countless others. I worked with Mary Kelly at the same time. Um, this is where I enter into the media arts and right now with the work that I did with Professor Tobias Hollerer and the first paper that I was a part of with him in his lab, Four Eyes Lab, called The Effects of Visual Realism, the Search Task for Mixed Reality Simulations. And in here, we had to design a basically a portable virtual reality rig that could be set up anywhere so that you can go in and be in an immersive environment and look for a certain level of detail. And on the lower left was the virtual environment that I had to create, which was replicating a building on campus. Now I enter into, simultaneously at the same time, I was working with the AlloSphere with Dr. Joanne Kachar-Marin, now distinguished professor, always distinguished in my eyes. She kind of led me through the PhD program. And in a way, what you're seeing here is someone that has a lot of interests in different hats. And she basically focused my view on looking at art science instrumentation and really understanding what it takes to be a part of a research group and a team. Uh, and let's see, I don't know if I can get
Excited to be here, and we have a slideshow to present.
So just briefly, I've been with the AlloSphere team for over a decade, and it's been an honor to be in this team. Through the highs and lows, mostly the highs. What I remember are the people that come to the facility and to us as a team to really rethink the world. Um, and so that's actually a part of what I think I'm talking about today. How do we rethink the world, and what's our place in that? So let's see. So briefly, you're looking from left to right on the upper left-hand side, looking at 3D cinema, two different types of instruments that were designed by Dr. Joanne Kachar-Marin and the various teams, but Allo Portal was the one that I was christened into the team. and looking at the curved screen versus the Immersive 360 instrument. On the lower left is the concept diagram that Dr. Joanne Kachamaran laid out as the AlloSphere is a part of a larger instrumentation to visualize pretty much anything that's science and then also art, which isn't listed there. And let me play a little bit of her work, and which I was a part of the team. And this work, I I'm not sure if it was exhibited in I think it was exhibited in Korea. There were different iterations of the exhibitions. We've worked on so many, and I wanted to thank uh, her not only as a professor and a leader, but also my colleague, Dr. Kim, who was a part of a lot of these efforts along the way. This was dear to my heart, and I worked with Dr. Kuchamaran working on what the future of art, culture, and entertainment can be. And I think maybe we can talk about that kind of at the end. This is a little bit of my work where I'm looking at these follies and these different types of expressions. So I wanted to play this. This is my colleague Thea. This is in the Trans Lab, and this is an immersive environment created out of data. The composition I made, and Dr. Kachamaran was my composition instructor and also critic for many years. And this uses various tools, Gamma, I would say AlloLib, C-Sound, recordings, voice, whatever makes the art powerful. On the bottom is, again, this immersive environment that ended up being a year and a half of really looking at gaming engines, Unity in particular, looking at geometry, looking at creating sculpture with the body, and then creating narrative within that. This is where we go into quantum sculptures, and I'll have to confirm with Joanne, but Joanne was in a 10-year, I would say, many years of development for her quantum compositions. As soon as I heard about it, I was like, I want to make an object out of it. This is one of the first iterations of that geometry, and she worked with her colleague, Dr. Lance Putnam. This is the first expression of the slice within fiberglass. This is kind of the dream project, so you'll see dream projects along the way, but we envisioned a wonderful donor that would actually help us create a mock-up of these beautiful images that were being created by this work and this quantum relationship and sound. On the left is kind of how I'm looking at this search space, and on the right are different expressions of what I'm thinking about. But currently, I've been in a reading group for a year with Dr. Andrew Culp, who wrote Dark Deleuze, and I've been heavily into A Thousand Plateaus by uh, Deleuze and Guattari for a year. And I'm trying to make sense of the chaos that's happening all around, which is a part of our time. I'm also an avid motorcycle rider, so that'll come into play a little bit later. I wanted to play these videos real quick because part of my um, current life is being a part of the LA scene, appreciating Santa Barbara, and seeing what comes next. And there is beauty in the city, but there's also much pain. And what is our place as academics and as leaders in the field if we cannot find a way to solve a larger world problem? But first, we have to solve our own problem. Um, What is a world? These photographs were from a recent um, visit from Victoria and some of the ArtSci community to the AlloSphere. And that was a few weeks ago. And why do I bring it up? Um, there's the atom again. And it seems like I've been in a love affair with the atom now for over a decade. But there's a beauty that it creates within an instrument that immerses you. So there's many, many layers that are happening here that's hard to describe unless you go. So the pitch is please come visit the AlloSphere and please bring a wonderful dinner. The collection, James Wine and Dustin Shula. So for James Wine's the highway model, I chose this because you're starting to see, and I think he writes about in his book how architecture, the land, the ecology, and everything are starting to kind of come together as one. It looks very intimidating, uh, but if you go into the surface, my job for many years, I'm a third generation uh, person in my family trained as an architect and have worked in the field and the profession. Um, I don't see it as chaotic. I see it as wonderful. There's a lot there. So let me play a small little video to give you kind of a taste of what I'm talking about. I mean, all of this is for me really wonderful, and I really enjoy looking at it. And this really set me off in the passion as an undergraduate and as a professional, and also looking at this as fine arts. Um, I haven't mentioned it before, but I was a student of Michael Asher, who has a show at the MoCA, which I would highly recommend, but he actually looks at architecture as kind of an institutional critique within the museum context. He also does community building work. He was a supporter of the Foundation for Art Resources, which I was the director of, and worked with Dorit Sipis, which I met with, who mentored me to take on this journey of community building. Dustin here, mixed up mixed artist and pop. I just wanted to show this real quickly because this really caught my attention.
Hi, welcome to Rides with Chuck. On the 2nd of May,
This is what we're talking about, impaling automobiles. Why did that catch my imagination? I had to learn how to fix my car, take apart the engine, and do those things. And it was always wonderful to try. My father and I spent hours trying to do it, and I thought that was sculpture. I had to clean the parts, put it back together, and I think those are kind of the building blocks of having empowerment when you're a child to being an adult. And that's kind of what I'm building in with now. He worked for a military contractor, and I met with many engineers, and there would be this wonderful, beautiful community of people dealing with media, electronics, science, signals, noise, entertainment. Earl Rayback and the Lumia project. He's a kinetic artist, a luminal artist. He has a wonderful lecture. Uh, he's a nuclear physicist. So he's combining both these houses of art and science and creating this wonderful work. I'll play this real quick. And I wanted to show this because when I saw this, I would say many years ago, and I think it's around 2010 or 2009. It was a long time ago when I went to the Berman Foundation. I saw some of this work and I just could not imagine how it was made and how beautiful it was to me. And I dreamt about it. I dreamt about being in it, being around it, but mostly how to make it. And the making part is a part of my practice is you make objects, you make immersive spaces, you make visual music, light, art and science research. You can lose yourself for hours. And I think my imagination, I could live in this for years if able. Thomas Wilfred, artist, designer, inventor, and musician. I'm going to play a little bit of this here, and I think that my colleagues can talk about this when they want. Um, but again, this is another look at light, sculpture, structure. I'm looking at this as a researcher trying to create this in the computer. And if it's data, how do I replicate it, live in it, fabricate it, and create different world narratives, new stories for contemporary culture? And what type of language do we use for this? James Aussie bubble sculptures. What caught my attention is that not only is he an artist and a scientist, he invented this type of art. Some of this art is at MIT. Students have studied it. It actually takes on a life of its own.
How does it make the square?
It has a little belt underneath the square.
Oh, okay.
How beautiful. It's basically how do you
Large phone.
how do you not love this type of work? It reminds me of being a child playing with bubbles, trying to figure out the mathematics behind it, the science, the engineering. There's so much involved in making this. And he made it as an experiment, but he made it at RISD. I think it was at RISD. And he also was a part of something more. It took on a life of its own, and he created for years this type of work. I wanted to leave this briefly because there are different lectures that I found online that were quite instructive, but the Earl Ryback lecture by WNYC was very great because he talks about the idea of light as a new art. James Wines, of course, talks about his distinguished career, but also his look at architecture and sculpture. And then there's the kind of documentation on the invention of the soap bubble. This caught my attention, and I'll play this a little bit. But it's basically the creation of a rainforest at Lace back in 2006. And there's living animals, living insects in here. So it's an entire I would say environment, closed environment. And why do I bring that up? Because I worked with a project, and maybe Dr. Joanne Kachar-Marin will expand on that. It's the idea of the sensorium, and that was around a 2.5-year project with the AlloSphere with the late Newton Harrison. How do we build a new world? So these are going to be works, curatorial and research practice works that I have, with my colleagues, have gone on a journey. But on the upper left was the first part of the journey working with Dr. Joanne Kachar-Marin with the AlloSphere Research Group when I was very, I would say, green as a researcher. Not as a professional, as a researcher. It's a different type of discipline, which I really appreciate embodying right now. But I'm going to play a little bit of this work. But if you look at this closely, what I see, and maybe it's very much biased, is that I see space, I feel this light hitting my body, going through my body, going through my imagination. When you hear it, it actually, you start dreaming about it. You take on another form. You inhabit what is being presented in front of you. Um, I don't, I think the first time I saw it and heard it, it just took over what I understood art to be. And it needed to have the, um, it needed to have the AlloSphere, this instrument. So thinking about the architecture, thinking about the mathematics, the light, the sound, it all came together. And for me, I was living in the future, in the present. These are some of the designs and schematics that I was responsible for, representing the form and the structure, making a sculpture, but also just really being outward facing and focused toward the community. Here's the installation. The concept of AlloPortal is coming from this exhibition, and we can talk about that at the end. This is another mechatronics. This is a project that I worked with as a graduate student researcher with the AlloSphere and Dr. Kuchera Marin, and the team really understanding how to create curriculum with robotics and art. This is throughout my years working with Joanne, we've created a lot of diagrams and talked a lot about ideas and concepts. And I'm very much beholden to her scholarship, but her life force to push this out into the world, which has given me the courage to do the same. This is I'll be presenting concepts that haven't been built, but have been built by others, surprisingly. But this is one also is looking at the idea of the allosphere, but as a kind of a cylinder through for center stage in Santa Barbara, a visualization. Uh, this was my favorite. It's this concert hall that was supposed to be built right next to the allosphere or behind, and the concepts are beautiful. And I think Joanne can speak more about those, but here's some diagrams and visualizations. This is a representation, kind of a dream. Um, Newton Harrison wanted to create this uber dream of the sensorium. And when he visited the Allosphere, and there's an interview that hopefully I'll play, that that Newton speaks with Joanne, really talking about the future and what this is, what opportunity there is, and visualizing nature, representing it, simulating what exists and what opportunities there are for humanity to evolve forward beyond our limitations right now, which seems to be very much focused on capitalism, which has its benefits, but at the moment, uh, someone needs to be a champion for nature. And when I met Newton and saw that collaboration with Joanne, that was kind of the super team. Here's a representation. Here's a visualization. There would be an inner expression and an outer expression. Uh, this is work with the AlloSphere team and my colleague. This sketch right here is from Dr. Kanyan Kim. And over the years, we've been asked to represent the Allosphere and express it out into the real world. And with Joanne and the team, we've actually talked about every configuration, surface, LEDs. How do you express this wonderful experience out into the world? This was a project that was approached by us through NVIDIA. And they wanted us to make this experience for them. And I think it was when they were doing the metaverse research and work. These are very humble representations of the spatial quality. But you can see that having a wonderful, huge curved screen makes a huge difference for immersion and IVEs, immersive virtual environments, which Dr. Kim can speak about at length when he speaks about his dissertation work. We also did a stint visualizing a concept at CalArts. And this was, again, another immersive environment that would be curated to have different types of content, and that's not domain specific, but arts and science. You can see the concert hall being expressed at CalArts in their modular theater. I'm an alum of CalArts, so a lot of what I remember is this theater took on a quality of its own. It was seen as super modern when it was made. It's still very modern to me right now. These are some of the visualizations inside. And if you can see very simply, these are trying to represent nature within a kind of a larger understanding of how do you get lost within real data or the natural world. And again, these are very poetic images, not to express the engineering, but to express the artistry and the beauty behind the ideas. This right here, I'll start, is the Sketches of Sensorium, and this was a part of the PST art exhibition by the Getty Foundation. And this was 2.5 years of research and exhibitions with the AlloSphere team, with UCI, with Newton Harrison, and how can I express it um, when we were working on this project, much of what I remember was that the Center for the Study of the Force Majeure and Newton were one. And when Newton passed at the pretty much during this process, we had to kind of reinvent ourselves and a new vision as a team. So I wanted to play this a little bit.
Almost a 60-year career of working with ecological issues. I began to work with the world ocean, and it developed a voice, and the voice spoke for itself. And I had no place for this voice to be heard until I met Joanne here, and I met the instrument that she's worked at. And if you look, I'm not sitting in a normal place. I'm sitting in a place of immersion. And and from it will emerge, and is emerging, and you will see emerge, a new narrative for the world ocean. And the core of the narrative is an honorable debate between science and art, where they turn out to be of co-equal value to each other. And the one expression does not happen in the absence of another. Actually, one is looking at weaving, and the science and the art weave together, as you will see, and the one supports the other, and the one is the voice of the other, until finally, you're not sure which is which, nor should you be.
Absolutely.
I wanted to, part of my job in the AlloSphere, it seems like I was kind of the Swiss Army knife. I did what was needed to be done. But there's certain moments where that one interview and that one expression really helped me understand why I'm here on this earth. We are here to make a difference. And I think working with the AlloSphere team and working and understanding what my place is in the world is that if we have the courage, and this is what I invited my colleague, Professor Dickinson, is that we're teaching. And in the last 3 years of teaching at the college level, I started to understand that I'm not sure if I understood what it meant to help someone evolve and change their minds and their spirits and their direction in life. And I'll speak more about that a little bit later. Um, just wanted to say Dr. Kim was also a vital member of this team, and he can speak more about the technology. Um, but this was a group effort to make this exhibition come alive. I was fortunate to work with the team to get to TED. Here's are some of my pictures. So I'm an obsessive when it comes to taking pictures. Here's Joanne, and I think one of the things that I've really appreciated throughout the years is that her energy brings people in. So I've tried I guess in my world, to try to do the same, to be open, to let people come to me with warmth, and then let's play. Let's solve problems together. Let's make art together. These are some of this was part of the exhibition that Chris Anderson asked us and commissioned us to do as a research group. And there's Chris on the lower left from TED. And the different exhibits. Dr. Kuchera Marin exhibited her work. So did Dr. Kim and Thea as well, Nunder, a member of the group. And this is kind of what we saw. This right here, I would say, was a wonderful project that happened very spontaneously, that combined all of these researchers, Professor Novak, many universities. Joanne, for me, was a vital member of this group, in that her leadership really led the way of solving very complex problems, not only understanding how to work together as a team, engineering, but also the security to know that there's someone that knows how to solve any problem that comes your way. And it was a very liberating experience. This was one of I think it might have been the highest, the most rewarded for the arts for ACM SIGGRAPH history, to create this 150-foot long, two vertical screen projections that are around 20 to 25 feet high. And Dr. Kim, who helped engineer this and was consulting throughout, he can speak more about that. You can get a taste of this. Now, I put this into context that this was a big curation, a curatorial project. We also had to work with Autodesk, who was our sponsor. So thank you, Autodesk. And but we had to curate their content, and their content came from Industrial Light and Magic and Disney, which was proprietary, which we could not share. And you can see on the left with the squares in the moving surface, Dr. Kim's visualization slash environment. He also did some of the floor interactivity portion, and he can speak about that. But this was supposed to be an expression of real-time movement within the environment, that took on the expression of the time tunnel. This was the synaptic time tunnel as a title. I'll play a little bit more of it. So to me, this is contemporary in our time, challenging the limits of architecture, art, media art, sculpture, design. Um, there's so much here, history as well. How do you express history or archiving media artworks? That is an open question. And that's something that over the years I've heard mention that there's possible solutions. I think at the AlloSphere and that research group, we have an answer. So maybe that's a cue for Joanne to come in at the end. we also went to CalArts as a part of the proposal of these exhibits for the Visions 2030 project is to really meet the artists, the people on the ground of the community that are doing ecological work, working with nature, working the community to figure out what is the edge, what is the ground. I appreciate doing research at the person level. I met so many wonderful people during this experience, and I would say go visit 2030 Project if you need more information. This was my favorite moment. I I would say two academics are engaging each other in so much energy and scholarship that I felt like I was floating on air for those 2 weeks, those two sessions, really just meeting people and engaging the problems of real life, economy, um, I would say nature and urban life. Uh, we've created a lot of, I would say, scholarship and knowledge in the AlloSphere, which we haven't shared. And a lot of my job is to try to figure out how to share all this to the world to inspire the next generation of leader or activist. Um, I would say if you go to our website, you can actually see this interview. But along the way, if you go to the AlloSphere website, you'll see that there's knowledge uh, everywhere so that we can understand how to learn in a contemporary way and how to inspire a new research cohort or cadre. What can we co-create in the world? So I'll go a little bit faster here. These are some curated exhibitions that I did during my time at UCSB. And this is the All Alliance of Women in Media Arts and Sciences. And this was a media exhibition that I designed and that I helped curate. Um, but it was mostly an expression of a community coming together and supporting the future of women in technology and the arts and sciences, which Dr. Joanne Couture-Marin at the time was advising throughout the years of its inception and beyond. And here's some pictures. This was also a part of a grant, and I was the main organizer and one of the curators. We published a book which is online for free, and it's basically like an album, a snapshot in time of the Media Arts and Technology program. Um, the title was White Noise, and it was, I think, it was 2016, so I would say it was referencing a time in America and a time of really investigation. How do we investigate where we are as media artists and as um, scholars? A part of this exhibition was having concerts live, and that's Dr. Curtis Rhodes, um, who actually had a concert that was a part of it. And this is, I think, myself taking a picture from the bottom down. Here's the our collaborative site was SBcast, and here's the plan. This is my colleague Miles Giotto and Jean-Pierre Ibert. Here's the plan of the building. So we had 3 floors. We took over CNSI, had 3 floors of exhibitions. I would argue that the AlloSphere took on a main draw for the community because it's usually closed. And this is one of the few times in the year that you can visit and experience this unique facility. It was a labor of love. This was more than a full-time job while doing a PhD, but we created knowledge. And this was the first time working with Joanne to make a snapshot of what each professor and their labs and research meant to them, which gave me a picture of how I wanted to proceed and continue evolving the community of media arts. And this would be key to my current work with ACM SIGGRAPH as a curator and organizer and with Digital Futures. I also did a stint working with as a research scholar and designer for the Lumens Prize and Leonardo MIT Press, Leonardo Azist. And this was during the pandemic. And I worked with my colleague, DC Spenceley, to make an online virtual immersive book that you could actually take 3D sculpture or data, put it in the browser, videos, sound works, and also 2D works to be presented in a way when at the time during the pandemic, we couldn't see each other. And I haven't shown the work that when the pandemic happened, the AlloSphere was still going. We were still meeting online, but sometimes we needed to meet together. And those were times where you didn't know what would happen. So I wanted to show you
Digital Futures
quickly.
is an independent organization for online architecture education, where everything is available for free. Staffed by volunteers, we organize workshops, tutorials, and talks in several different languages. We aim to bring important educational ideas to architectural students across the planet, regardless of nationality, ethnicity, religion, gender, age, or economic standing. We use our online platform to break through not only the physical walls of the classroom, but also the economic, social, and political barriers that for so long have prevented certain individuals.
So in my work in Digital Futures, at the tail end of my dissertation, I happened to see their, I would say their conference, which was put together in a matter of weeks with Tongji University in China to put together a global, I would say, conference for architects and media artists throughout the world. I helped along the way support and help create and structure different programs, looking for young scholars, looking at the legends of the field, but then also expanding on current discourse when it comes to computation and being critical with humans and computers and in the age of AI. This was a paper that's available for everyone to read about why digital futures is an important expression and how it helped create a tone for different conferences in the architecture space and hopefully in the media art space to create a knowledge and for it to be free throughout the world. We've had over 4 million views. I've been a part of the organization for over 5 years. And a lot of this work, I would say, directly applies to the work that I did with the AlloSphere, Joanne, and the media arts, trying to create a new vision for the world and have it accessible to everyone. At ACM SIGGRAPH, I took that knowledge and I'm building on each one for curation, education, and to create a platform for media artists to express themselves. There's another library. Part of the work that I was a part of with Joanne in research was that media arts is not a requirement, or arts isn't a requirement in the state of California to educate our youth. And I saw media arts as an empowering device for, I would say, academic scholarship and intellectual curiosity. Here are some of the panels that I helped organize or structure or support. this is an article that I co-wrote on what we're looking for in the community. So I would extend an invitation to all media artists to come and to exhibit, to share their work, and to really find community. And I guess I'm a community organizer along the way. We just finished an event called Animism Revisited yesterday, which was a wonderful panel that should be out in the next week. My colleague, Joshua, Professor Dickinson, and I are currently curating, which a show will open up July 1st called New Media Expressionists Architectures. It's an exhibition experiment, and we have international competitions. I'm almost done. This is part of the
New media architectures, virtual topologies in urban spaces.
So
is an exhibition
taking
of
the
moving
work
image and new
from
media
the
artwork
AlloSphere
presented
and
on
now putting it
architectural
out
scale
into the
video
world with
displays in the
curation.
Denver Theater
That has
District,
been
and projection
one of the
mapping
main
upon the
focuses that
Daniels
I've
and
had for the
Fisher
last
Tower
3
in
years
Denver,
is how
Colorado.
do I open up new doors
The artists
for
in this
the
exhibition address the
ACM SIGGRAPH
affordances and
community.
complexities
And
of
this
pervasive
was
media
the
display
year
in the urban
after
landscape.
the
Participating
synaptic
artists
time
find
tunnel.
themselves in the mixed
So
company
there
of
was
paid
one accomplishment,
advertisements and program
something that has never
marketing.
been done
Their
before for
works
ACM
randomly
SIGGRAPH
activated
with a
within
big
a public
team.
display
And
system
this was
amidst
another
an
project
assortment of
that
unrelated,
opened up the city
countervailing
of Denver
content.
to do
Their
this
brief
huge
interruptions offer moments
billboard
of reflection,
exhibitions
humor,
for
and
the community.
repose amidst an onslaught.
This is kind of the main picture of the court. We had so many people that went there that the restaurant facilities broke and had to close for our celebration. And then I was there throughout the evening watching people wander to really enjoy the media and urban space and the safety that they felt. These are the locations, some of the facilities. I helped put this together as kind of an overall vision. So my training as an architect really comes in handy. So this right here is another exhibition with my colleague Victoria Szabo, and we're looking, this is an online exhibition called The Future of Reality, Post-Truths, Digital Twins, and Doppelgangers. And this is peer-reviewed, curated, where we did a global international call. And we're looking at, in this group, how do we come together in kind of a vision? How do we come together as a community? So in this video is the second iteration of New Media Architectures in Vancouver, which my colleague, Professor Dickinson, was a part of. And the invitation was to create an augmented reality exhibition slash intervention with an existing mural. And we can talk more about that a little bit later. But some of the artists are my colleagues and people that I've met throughout the years and people that have answered the call. It takes some courage to answer these calls when they're not so straightforward. I would say this right here is the exhibition that'll open up in July 1st that Professor Dickinson and I are co-curating, and this is called New Media Expressionists Architectures. So you can see a theme, right? I think I need to find a new name, so maybe we can do that during the Q&A. We basically, part of my time developing this exhibition was living in Los Angeles and really seeing what I would say is a lot of need, a lot of reimagining of the future. While reading all these texts on activism and also deep philosophy, how do we come together and to create a new type of expression for the conference and then also for our community? So while teaching with Professor Dickinson, we were like, sound is a really big part of these media artworks. Why don't we lead with that? So that was part of the inspiration of this work. This will be a collaboration between ACM SIGGRAPH and LACTA, and it'll hopefully be there. And I think I'm winding down. Finally, a lot of the teaching that I've done with my colleague, we were initially commissioned by Professor Liliana Gallegos for the PST Getty um, art exhibition to do an online class that would be free and open to the public. And the idea is that we would open up our curriculum to the world. And what was great is that we had to rethink our course over the last 2 years on how to make it open and accessible. So briefly, um, I finally, with Professor Dickinson, uh, are starting to put together these book slides of all of what I would think would be a part of creating a wonderfully educated, dynamic community that is current with contemporary media arts and science and politics. And this is what we give to our students. And this is what we hope to engage with. We also have online critiques. Uh, these critique methods have been created by just the years of being together in harmony in a research lab, also being in the profession, and then also just working with students throughout the years. I have been fortunate to, while working with the AlloSphere, have been exclusively a graduate student researcher, then a postdoc, and now I'm a part of this collaboration, working with Dr. Joanne Kachamarin and affiliation, but also just really thinking about what is next and what is our responsibility. And here, part of what I hope to do in this year's ACM conference is to have an international critique session with some of the artists and what's going on. Very similar to what we do in our class and online. Really have deep philosophical conversations. I think I'm at the end. So what we're looking at I think in our class is how do we incorporate AI in a way that's intelligent, ethical, and moral, that we don't lose sight on the humanity of making art, and then also using the power of the tools that we have at our disposal. And I think I would say briefly, what is now my colleagues, Dr. Joanne Kachamarin, which I invite for you to turn on your cameras, Dr. Kim and Joshua. These are part of my community members that make me strong, that make me fearless, that I actually have to study and keep on my toes every day, because every time I see them, they ask these questions that are existential, and I love to answer them to the best of my ability. So thank you.
Thank you, Gustavo. I could just summarize your work as someone who deals with complexity. And that's the world we live in right now. So it's really wonderful. It's also great to hear your background with your father building cars and architecture. And just, I'm always so touched when I hear how childhood influences the path in the end when you turn around. So it's wonderful what you shared. Really just that string gave so much more coherence to seeing you doing this or that or here or there. It's very complex, right? But with your talk, I can see how there's a thread through it all. And the thread, I would say, was managing complexity, giving it architecture, and creating community. So thank you for that.
Let me share a
So
little.
now I'm not hearing you. Maybe it's me.
So let me share. Do you hear me? Okay. Let me share a little story. When my father worked creating architecture, I was very sick. I was a sickly kid. But what I used to do was during his constructions, I used to go up to the second floor and sleep on a beam. And he was shocked that I would sleep on a beam and never fall.
Oh, wow. That
And
is so interesting and so
and when I
symbolic.
and when I think about it, there's so much mystery in being a human being and understanding the idea of space and really what comes into your mind. And I'm tearing up a little bit, but I have to say, I really have been so fortunate to experience what I have, and I'm very thankful for my colleagues that I feel like I can do anything. And
And you
that's just
can, and you
cool.
will. It
Of
feels
course.
almost like you're at the threshold of something new. And you
Oh,
certainly are thinking big. We can't say that you're thinking small.
well, I would say Joanne made, I would say she
And
created a
Joanne,
program.
Joanne
Yeah,
created that beast in you for sure.
exactly. I'm
I mean,
sure.
it's also wonderful to see and Joanne, you can say a few words. The gratification you get as an educator artist. So it's very difficult to manage these worlds, and you have to pretty much give up all of yourself to it and add family to that, and it just becomes that's your life. But to see somebody grow to continue the way of thinking and the lineage of the creation, and to then connect it also to the kinetic artists that you brought up, especially Newton Harrison. I mean, that just, wow, to have had the opportunity to work or relate with him at the end of his life. And for those young in the audience, you should definitely look up Harrison. Anyway, so I'll pass it on to the guests, and really thank you for joining, because it's always wonderful to hear from people who know the featured artist and who can relate to the talk in a very special way. So who wants to start?
Well,
Joshua.
here, no, let me start. Let me start with Joanne, but let me say briefly, she helped me get my dissertation while I was, I would say, confused, lost, scared, full of doubt. She was a strong hand that led me forward. And I think that that is something that I've tried to do for others.
Nice.
And I think that's a really great example. So, Joanne.
That's a teacher.
Okay. Thank you. Excuse my voice, please. No, this was wonderful. And I think the most important thing to say is the only way that I was able to do what I did was from my students. My students are the ones that really have given me all of the knowledge and the vision of what I've done. I could have never done it without them. Gustavo, Josh, and right now my postdoc, Dr. Kanyan Kim, who keeps things moving forward in a real force. And for us, I think the most important thing is community, is love, is empathy, and realizing that we're all connected. So, that's really the bottom line more than anything. And I hope I can maintain enough knowledge and grace to be able to take the next group to the next future until I move on to my next future world. Anyway,
Beautiful.
so I'll open it up to everybody else and see what people have to say.
Well, let me just say that the best way to learn is to teach. And I'll say that as someone who teaches, and that's absolutely true. But I would like to bring the discussion a little bit to the last, what you brought up about the teaching initiatives and the making it free and open to everyone. I think that's a dream for all of us that are super constrained with academia, to create some kind of balance between the, very bureaucratic kind of dinosaur and the world that's just in flux and changing, and also to somehow balance the inequalities. But how do you support that? How do you I mean, it's kind of a business to really make it happen,
Are you,
especially if you want it to be free.
are you asking me?
I'm asking Gustavo, actually. I
Okay,
mean, of
yeah.
course you can chip in,
No, go ahead,
but
Gustavo.
Well, this is what I do know. Uh, the way that I got involved with Digital Futures was someone actually in on a video literally saying, "We need help." And the first time that I worked with Joanne, it was almost the same. She needed someone. And then I was like, I felt a pull. And what I'm understanding is that this material pulls people. It's a natural thing. The coming together with time, it doesn't take much time if you're organized and clear-minded on what you want to share. And I think I was inspired also because with Joanne, we created a lot of curriculum with different donors and different organizations and met with people. And you would be surprised the people that come with tears, with heartache, with I need a cure for cancer, or I need some way to walk because I can't, or my child has a disability that can't learn. But then when they get to the instrument, anything is possible. And this is where I want to go back to Joanne. I think that a lot of what I've experienced, you could say are miracles, but you could also say that we're people. And when you give someone love and attention and humanity, then anything is possible creatively.
okay, I'll pass it on so I don't hog the bandwidth. I could ask more questions.
Well spoken. I could chime in a little bit about the teaching as well. It's been
Yeah.
so inspiring teaching with Dr. Rincon. And even though he's older than me, he kind of makes me feel young again and inspired, which is cool. But kind of part of answering your question about what keeps it open.
Yeah.
And just to give you a little bit more of a view into what we do is we started teaching on Zoom before the pandemic. And then with the pandemic, it kind of naturally moved on. And then Gustavo came in to help create and come up with the vision of what this virtual reality course would be. More of an immersive art course. And we're not lying about the community. We have students, I think, who have taken it maybe 4 times. And we always, well, kind of what we do to keep it open is we say, everyone's welcome. I'll let you in the room. You can audit the course. You can be a TA. And we keep having more and more people kind of join us. We have professors from other colleges kind of making content for us. Like, hey, you could use some of this. I'll make a lecture and share it with your students. We have students who are taking the class because it's on Zoom. There was a student in Israel who was actually in lecture at 1 a.m. when he says, oh my gosh, and turns off his microphone and runs away. Comes back 20 minutes later. We're like, what happened? He's like, oh, there was an air raid bombing. Like, so this is the kind of energy in our course. It is as much this contemporary online collaborative kind of vibe. It's the most amazing thing.
Wonderful. So does this happen once in a while, or is there a regular meeting? We should share it with our audience too.
Oh yeah, that would be great. We're always trying to get guests. We've had people like Curtis Hickman, who created The Void, kind of the most advanced virtual reality location ever created, perhaps. And he came to give a guest lecture. So yeah, we're always kind of looking for guests working in this space.
Yeah.
We meet regularly twice a week, generally, kind of Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we'll try to recruit more people.
Well, Victoria, to answer your question, yeah, we're open. And I think part of the why we're open is we were invited by Professor Gallegos to do this open curriculum for the Getty Foundation. So it actually informed how we were thinking.
I see.
I would also say, just to include Dr. Kan Young Kim, a lot of what I showed were concepts and ideas, but a lot of the engineering and a lot of the work to make it real, that's him. The Joanne actually is, I would say, like the strength, like the spirit. How do we actually make it work? and we have to come together as a unit. But Dr. Kim, what do you say about, design and engineering and your interest in mathematics?
Uh, so a lot of the so Gustavo and I've been working for over a decade now, and it's really been a pleasure. Um, so a lot of Gustavo has been really essential in basically connecting our work and trying to figure out how we deploy that into the world. Joanne is always the guiding light, but a lot of the research that we do is basically figuring out how people, humans, our body, we perceive the world and how we connect it. But with whenever I try to figure out, okay, how the like figure out the the rough plan on how to execute in basically and try to connect with the audience. It's always Gustavo has always been kind of like the one that actually fills in all the cracks in the rough plan to basically how to realize it and be able to be the driving force that actually allows us to push outside from the academia to the community. And it's been it's been a real I mean, I've learned so much with our basically back and forth talks that it's in any corporation or any group, it's always there's the always the kind of the relation between the engineer and the artist slash producer. And it's been a wonderful relation over the decade.
So fortunate.
Yeah.
I would say, just to chime in, I know Joanne's being humble, but through the many years we had our weekly meetings for dissertation work, um, every week was like a bomb in your head. Like, oh my God, I cannot believe I didn't see that. Or I cannot believe I didn't think of that. Or you'd have an hour discussion so philosophically, historically rich that you would be like, why didn't I ever learn that before? But if you're coming together with two minds and two people, it is, I would, I would say that the technology is trying to do the same. Um, and I'm not really sure how it's going to get there, but I know Joanne would know because she's been on it for so long. And I think I took the torch along the way going, I have an idea. Maybe I'll approach it a certain way. But Joanne, I just wanted to talk to you about the kind of the immersive theater that wasn't made, or some of these projects that these visions that you've had. How would you, what would be the next iteration of what you see the future needing for like a new AlloSphere type of instrument? Like, what are we confronting right now?
Well, I think, as Victoria mentioned, that we need to get outside of the institution in order to do what we want to do. I mean, that's my goal now for the next part of my life on this planet, is to be able to pay it forward, to land what I've built and find out how we can bring it out to the community. I mean, which is something you're doing, Gustavo and Joshua, which are really great. But how do we do it not only with virtually, but physically as well? And how can we make our own institutes that are open enough that people that can't afford to be able to come to the university can actually be part of everything? I think one of the things that I understand, coming from a very poor blue collar working family, is that people that are out in the streets know a lot more than we think they know. And being in the ivory tower can really be strangling. So that's my goal. My goal is to take it to the next level and see if we can build the interactive cinema community space, immersive world that everybody can share. So that's about what I'm looking at this point.
I would say that
Amazing.
also Dr. Kim is very humble as an artist too, because we propose an immersive type of experience, an AlloSphere type of facility for Isaiah Dubai, which we still don't know if it's going to happen, but we were accepted, and Joanne and Joshua are also a part of that too. Because it's very rare for you to conceive of something, make an instrument, engineer it, curate it. And I'm like, who has that energy? I know one person that does, Joanne, but can I try it? And I think that that's where it takes a team. It takes Kenny, myself, Joshua, and so many people to try to put one thing together. So it's humbling. But Dr. Kim, can you talk about what you think some of these future type of Allosphere type of facilities are required in the age of AI?
Yeah, it's a it's a very critical time in my opinion. This is so when we I tried to summarize basically the research that we do here on campus as a group, it's kind of boils down to one word: interface. So this is this is an era where we're basically the interface, or basically, or in simpler words, the way that we perceive the world around us and interact with the world around us is basically we are reaching a point where the paradigm is shifting. Like we, the way that in a technological sense, it's we're we're being exposed to more and more devices that allows us to not only digitally alter the way that we perceive the world, but also affect, but also in content wise, we're reaching a point, especially with how we are so overwhelmed with information that, and with the prevalence of the AI tools, that the way that we process the information is also um, facing a change. And it's, in my opinion, it's something that we have to give real thought about, because if there's not enough attention on it, then it can be a very dangerous situation. Um,
I would echo that. I think that we're living in an age of paradox, really. And the paradox is that data centers are using huge amounts of resources. And at the same time, many of the artists, all of us are implicated, let's put it that way. Nobody's outside of that system anymore because we're all in it. And yet the natural system is just really suffering, and there's a big digital divide happening that's getting bigger. So the real question is how you balance being completely unplugged and being managing in the world, and then able to access these other worlds so that you're not cut out from the information. One of the most amazing moments to me during the pandemic was when I was in some meeting. I can't even remember what it was, frankly, but what struck me that I'll never forget is that this person came in and she was in a small village in Siberia. And she was so grateful to have access to whatever we were doing, that it just really made me realize that's what we want. So to use resources for something like that, as opposed to creating more animations, more virtual worlds, more immersive stuff. And there is more and more of it. So you pioneered the idea of the dome, Joanne, but we're seeing them all over now, right? They're bigger, they're more intense, they charge money to get in. They're definitely not crediting you. So I think to really work now at this brink, we do need a community. It does take a village. And I really believe that having Harrison at the very end of your presentation and what you were doing together just really gives a message. We really need to be environmentally conscious and mindful and figure out how to balance these worlds and how to power them. You know, there's other ways to power the it doesn't have to be fossil fuels and electricity and everything we're doing. We got the sun. So how do we take those technologies that are in place and support them and really create new worlds? What you're talking about, you know, from beginning of your lecture to the other lecture to the end. And what Kenny is saying, you know, we're really in a dangerous time. There's no way to think otherwise. It's really on the brink because the paradigm's shifting, but the resistance to the shift, which is inevitable, is so intense that it's destructive. And so we find ourselves in a very tough place where education becomes key. You know, it really becomes key, and it has to be in coordination with academia, let's say, with institutions, because of the way the world is, but certainly has to be out the way it started happening with the pandemic. And then, of course, it commercialized. So we're back to step one.
Yeah. I completely echo that. So much of our course is about kind of teaching them not to take what's been captured by corporate interests and have that be the new dream of technology. So we say, you know, when you think of VR, I don't want you to think of Mark Zuckerberg and like Meta and stuff. I want you to think of Jaron Lanier and the old dreams of what's possible. Or if you think of about immersive cave content, surround stuff, you know, not a Grateful Dead concert. That's cool, but we need people like Joanne where it's like scientists can step into their data and, you know, see it in a way they've never seen before. Like these old dreams of technology that are just now able to be realized. We can't let it be taken over by these new kind of corporate commercial interests and whatnot.
That's right.
So just to finish the second part of what Gustavo was asking, so that the that was what we just talked about was basically what we wanted to highlight in the ICEA Dubai installation that we have. Basically, the theme was centered around calligraphy and writing, which is one of the most ancient, but also the most prized way of us basically interacting with one another, or roughly with interacting with somebody else, with over the form of basically letters and writing, right? And in the modern era that we were facing, especially when typing has basically taken over writing and basically in everything has been digitized, there's a lot of information that is lost over the translation. So by installing a virtual environment that has a much wider bandwidth of delivering information to you, instead of the act of writing involves so many things, including the writer's like emotion, mental state, and all those like the information that is not just in the letters that could be potentially captured and delivered over the environment, and trying to highlight what is being lost in the modern era and trying to think about how we can coincide in the future with the AI and a digital centric world. Yeah. So
I
that was what we were trying to build in Dubai.
Yeah, hey, we still might. I think this is the best part. I mean,
Let's
um,
hope. Let's hope.
I would say, Joanne, I've had discussions with Kenny and I think met at another level of creation with this exhibition and really having these nuanced discussions about writing and what it means to have this type of culture that is distributed throughout the world and its different expressions. And I think maybe we can try to figure out and maybe discuss a little bit what were the proposed projects. I don't want to put that out there strongly, but I was inspired by talking to each one of them about what they wanted to do, what they are doing, and what is important in their research. But I want to go to Joshua real quick. Joshua, he's a part of two companies. Unfiltered Audio is the big company that has a lot of sway in, I would say, in the world of music and audio. And he has an AI company that also worked with MGM Studios. And um, what is really great, and maybe you can talk about it a little bit, is how AI has taken different languages and cadences and made it go from one language to another with old recordings that are 50 years old. I mean, that to me is science fiction that his company made real. Joshua, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, happy to. It was a project, yeah, Universal Music. We partnered with them through a company called Sound Labs that we started with four of us. Dr. Michael Hetrick was involved in the artist Brian Transo, BT. And basically, we worked with Brenda Lee and Universal Music, and they cracked open the vault and gave us all the master recordings to Rocking Around the Christmas Tree from 1958. And people don't realize
Nice.
this. They know she was young, but she was 13 years old when they recorded that. And she's still alive. She was all about this project. And so we cloned her voice.
Nice.
And, people say voice cloning. And, there's a whole ethical thing with that, completely understood. But she was involved. She was happy for that. It was magic to her when she heard it. She was like tears up and everything. But we hired a human transcriber a translator to translate the song, kind of as the best that could be done to Spanish. And then we hired an actual singer to sing it in Spanish as kind of a human scaffold, and then changed it to Brenda Lee's voice, put it back onto the master recording.
Wow.
And when you listen to it, it sounds exactly like I talk to people and I say, it's more like a time machine to an alternate reality where she was, perhaps a girl from Mexico or something singing the song. And it sounds just like that. So it was a good project. That was for Christmas 2024. And I just checked before we were talking about this. There's over 2 million views and stuff. So it was a
Wow.
popular project.
Crazy.
I was about to say a lot of working with Joshua and to Kenny and going, how can we make a virtual AlloSphere? How can we have students from all over the world look at this instrument as a place of hope, see it in their computer, really live in this technology, and then reimagine the world differently? Because I think that's the promise that I've held close to my heart is that when I get into a space like that or in my mind, I see the world different. And part of my scholarship, especially with you, Victoria, you are internationally known in the field. You have a lot of knowledge, but I feel like I have to always learn and to be very open to how I can grow as a person. And I think, Joanne, one thing that I want to say, I'll say it on her behalf. If there's a billionaire out there, we need you. But there's a lot of unbuilt projects that could be best served with a team like us, a community that cares and loves people.
Humanity. What a great place to end, really. Thank you so much on this beautiful journey that you took us to and to show how you're a new age architect, and we need more like you. So I'm glad you're a teacher too. Take care. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Bess.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
this.
Care. Bye.
Bye.